Liquid Death is taking my favorite water from actual mountains and putting it in a limited edition keg. All for me and my unborn child. Drink up.
Oh my God, your water just broke.
Whoopsies. So next time you're pregnant, reach for an ice-cold Liquid Death mountain water or get a limited edition personal keg. Why, yes, officer, I have been drinking. For two.
For moi? Nah. There you go. This is why we're here today. So we wanted to end on a high note, retail. Attention is one of the most valuable commodity right now, and everybody's out there to get a piece of the attention, but how do you stick out? How do you stick out from your competitors? And nobody has been better at that than Liquid Death in the recent past. So this is why we're very proud to have Mike Cessario come join us and then impart some of that knowledge on how they have been able to take a product and also grab the attention of a lot of people, a lot of Gen Z, a lot of young, and then to get into a vertical which is so competitive by being innovative in grabbing attention. So Mike is here to impart that knowledge with us. Please give a round of applause to Mike.
Hey everyone, thanks for having me here and listen about the crazy Liquid Death story. What the hell is Liquid Death? If you don't know, we basically are a healthy beverage company. We started making mountain spring water in a can. Then we went to flavored sparkling in 2022. Then we launched, which is low calorie, low sugar iced tea in 2023. And really the point of it was only unhealthy products that had the really funny, cool marketing. Like you think of, what's the funniest ad campaign I've seen in the last 10 years? It's like Cheetos, Snickers, Dos Equis, Skittles. It's like candy, junk food, alcohol. Why can't a healthy beverage company market in the same funny, hilarious way as an unhealthy brand? And sort of why we do what we do is you guys have probably seen some version of this graph sometime in the last decade. But this shows the gray line, which is time spent on traditional media since 2011, and this in the pink shows time spent on digital media. It's a massive divide. Everybody is spending their time on their phones, and it's a completely different vehicle when you're marketing to someone on their phone. That's where they're getting their news. That's where they're getting their info. And really, when you look at media, it's kind of, you're looking like the way a day trader looks at stock. Where's the cheapest place for me to get my message to as many eyeballs as possible? Yes, you could buy a billboard on the freeway, but what you pay per eyeball is way higher than what you pay per eyeball on the phone. And if you sit in traffic, even though you're not supposed to be on your phone, and you look at the car next to you, someone is on their phone, they're not even looking at the billboard. So in a phone environment, the main place people live is social media. That's not news, right? And you look in your social feed, these algorithms are really smart with showing you stuff that you love. And a lot of the time, that is not brand stuff. So when you're scrolling through your feed, as a brand or marketer, you're not competing against other brands. You're competing against the internet. You're competing against people's families, the engagement photos, the comedian they follow, the influencer they follow. Because if you're not enough to stop, it's literally a millisecond to just go to the next thing. And then you just paid for that impression and you got zero out of it. So you have to really think about what stops people on social. And basically, my kind of way to describe it is I think it's kind of like the 1950s all over again. If you guys don't know the story of soap operas were created by soap companies back when the idea of a commercial was ludicrous. What is a commercial? It's not a thing. So the only thing they could do was, well, let's produce content for our target audience, which was, housewives at the time, that they will actually want to watch. And then it's like brought to you by Procter & Gamble or the soap company. So they actually, on their staff, they had drama TV show writers creating content, essentially, that they were just sort of attaching their brand to. And I feel like that's what's happening now. You can't just force an ad down someone's throat anymore. You kind of have to make legitimate entertainment, it could be a lot of different things, but something people legitimately would want to consume or pay to consume. That's how much they want to watch what it is. And then it's brought to you by a brand. So marketing, in theory, is easy. Entertainment is really hard. And if you think about, yes, State Farm can pay Patrick Mahomes $10 million to be in an ad. It's going to have some amount of success because of who he is. It's not rocket science to make most marketing. Entertainment, how do you make a hit television show or SNL sketch and cast the right people and have comedians and all that? That's really hard. That's why there's not a lot of it, but that's real entertainment. And the value, obviously, is way different with both of them. What we're trying to do with Liquid Death is blur the lines between an entertainment company and a beverage company. And that's not really a new thing. Red Bull has successfully done it for 30 years. Monster's done it for 25 years. Now, their entertainment is specifically action sports, but there's more entertainment in the world than, skateboarders and snowboarders and that kind of thing. And our entertainment sort of genre that we focus on is comedy. We want to be the funniest beverage brand in the world. That's our goal every day. We want to be the funniest thing that you see in your social feed from a brand, definitely from a beverage. And if we're able to do that, people create the media for us. We don't have to pay for the eyeballs. When you make something people actually want to share, they are spreading your brand and your message for you. And I think that's the problem where especially when you're an emerging brand, it is a different game, of course, when you're the Cokes and Pepsis of the world and you have almost unlimited marketing budgets. You can buy Patrick Mahomes without thinking twice about it. Everybody else, you have to find some way to get your message out there where you're not paying for every eyeball that gets exposed to it, because you will run out of money before you ever get to the level of awareness that you need. So the only way to do that is to have something that people naturally want to tell other people about, that they want to share. And most of the time, people do not want to send a salesperson to their friend's door, is a way that we think about it. But entertainment, like I said, it's really hard. It doesn't work with the old model of, well, just go hire a marketing agency and they'll go make entertainment. Well, that's not what they do. So for Liquid Death or Saturday Night Live, they don't hire marketing agencies to write comedy sketches that get bajillions of views. They hire actual comedians. They go and they build their ecosystem around entertainment. And that's kind of what we've had to do as a brand to be able to make legitimately entertaining things. Our marketing team is not advertising, marketing, copywriters that work on State Farm ads. They're a guy that had his own television show on Adult Swim that ran for 6 seasons that was bizarre and funny. It's a guy that wrote for The Onion, the fake news thing that's used to just trying to entertain people with words. So you if you're going to do something that's entertainment and comedy based, you need professional funny people. You can't just have hey, I kind of made a funny thing once people, because you're not going to be able to consistently churn out the level of entertainment that you need to kind of generate what you needed to generate. So with Liquid Death, we also have, the way Red Bull signs athletes, we sign comedians. So we've got some of the big stand-up comedians like Whitney Cummings and Burt Kreischer and Bill Burr and all these folks who came into the brand where we said, hey, we know that you like the brand because we have some mutual, we've heard, oh, he likes it, he drinks it. Hey, we'll let you invest in the company. Feel like you have some ownership and upside, and then, hey, let's do some cool content together. And we do that, that ends up working well. And then we also have a brain trust of people that's, hey, we're coming up with a new cherry flavored sparkling water. We need a funny name. And sometimes it's as close as we can text these people. Sometimes it's an email. And then They're bored sitting around doing whatever. Oh, that's funny. And then they send us back a list of gold names. And one of them we use. It's called Cherry Obituary. That's our name. Came from a comedian on a text message. Not a marketing agency, and it was free. So again, building the right ecosystem to actually put out truly entertaining content and just brand activations on every level, we take that really seriously. A big thing that we do at all levels of the company, not just marketing, but even in innovation or even in supply chain, is this idea of small bets. I think in marketing specifically, the model used to be an advertising agency comes up with a campaign for a big client, and they go into the big boardroom meeting and they say, hey, executives, we have 3 different campaigns we think could be cool for this. And then a group of executives decides, that's the best campaign, let's put $50 million into that campaign. And let's hope that it works and does everything we want it to do. That doesn't work that well that often. And even these big companies, they try to hedge these bets by saying, hey, well, we're going to test, we're going to run focus groups. And they'll say, well, it tested really well. Then they put it in market and it flops. Because it turns out when you put people in a clinical testing environment, they don't behave the way they normally do in the real world. So you have to take all that with a grain of salt. And there's few things you can really glean from that. It's not a perfect way to say, is this funny to real people or not? If Liquid Death was put through a focus group at Coca-Cola, it would have never seen the light of day. Because people would have been like, oh, this is so terrible, it's so confusing, I would never buy this. And it's one of the most successful beverage launches of the last decade. So the way you can get to big ideas or big wins is by, again, doing something we call small bets, which is not that foreign from someone who is a stock trader. You have a portfolio of things. You've got, hey, this little thing here that it's probably not going to make me a bunch of money, but if I get lucky, this could be this huge return. And then, oh, I have this thing that it's probably not going to get too big, but it's also not going to completely lose either. And you've got the right mixture of things where it enables you to find unexpected wins, because 8, 9 times out of 10, the thing that takes off and goes nuts is the last thing you thought that would. And the thing you're like, oh, this thing's going to be incredible, ends up not doing at all what you thought it was going to do. So you have to do a bunch of different things, and you can only afford to do that if you can find ways to test things and do them in smaller form to get a good idea whether it's working or not. And then if something's really working, you can move money or resources over to that thing, whatever that might be. So, we have things from, okay, yeah, we're going to do a video with Martha Stewart, not the cheapest video in the world, but we also get the benefit of once you can create consistently viral content that's legitimate entertainment, these celebrities are willing to work with you for a fraction of the cost, because it's not just a cash exchange. They know that their brand is getting something. Martha Stewart knows, she's not dumb. She knows, hey, I want to stay relevant. This is a cool brand. They're constantly putting out videos with millions and millions of views on social. That helps my brand, actually, from a relevancy factor, to be a part of this. Different than Martha Stewart being approached by Pepsi to do something. But still, it becomes a big bet for us, but we kind of know that thing's probably going to do decently well because it's Martha Stewart. But it's probably not going to be this thing that gets 100 million views and does all that. So we'll do those kinds of things. Then we did another video where we made fun of the old Shake Weight commercial, if anyone remembers that, with cans of Liquid Death, where they're using cans of Liquid Death like a Shake Weight and spraying themselves in the face with water. That video cost us $40,000 and did 6 times the views of Martha Stewart. But no one would have looked at that idea on paper and said, oh yeah, this is going to be bigger than Martha Stewart. It was the dumbest idea ever. But it was one of the most successful. But again, we have to kind of give ourselves room to experiment with things that maybe they do something, but hey, if they do nothing, it's not tanking your marketing budget. It's not going to screw up your trajectory. Okay. Another question that we get all the time at Liquid Death is, what you guys do is so edgy. It's shocking. how do you do that? Well, when you think about it like entertainment, what we do is tame. Look at the #1 viewed stand-up comedy special on Netflix. The jokes in that are way racier than anything we would ever put out in a video. But bajillions of people are consuming it and watching it. And it's one of the most loved things that there is. Look at the #1 comedy movies that come out. Look at the #1 horror movies that get hundreds of millions of dollars at the box office. Look at the #1 video games that do billions in revenue every year that are the most violent, crazy things you've ever seen. That's all real entertainment, because real entertainment requires a certain level to actually entertain people. Marketing does not actually entertain because, again, if someone made a 30-minute TV show that was anything like a 30-second commercial you watch, no one would watch it. So part of the reason that we have to be, entertainment or shocking is because that's what is required to get people to be entertained. And if you try the opposite route, where let's just do a really safe thing that's really expensive, especially as an emerging brand, that's one of the riskiest things you can do. Because people try to play the same game as a small company that the big companies play. This image right here of pizza, in my former life, I did marketing for DiGiorno frozen pizzas for a period of time. Just to get that image of what they called the cheese pool, that's $500,000 to get that. And all their data and testing says the cheese pool is the #1 thing people respond to in our commercials. But as a frozen pizza company, when there's a pizza shop on every single corner, there's a million other options, like from Papa John's to Domino's to whatever to order, your problems are bigger than the cheese pool. Because the reality is, yes, that cheese pool, people are responding to that, but do they really believe they're getting that when they buy you? Probably not. So I think you have smaller companies, and sometimes those small companies have marketing executives that come from big companies, and they want to try to do these same playbooks for a small company. But if Liquid Death spent $500,000 in the early days just to get a beautiful spinning shot of the can, put that on social, it would have 9 views. Whereas we shoot a funny commercial for $1,500 that is a joke about this yoga mom waterboarding somebody with the product. That gets 3 million views and enables us to actually raise capital to start a company. So again, it is more reckless to make big spends that are not going to have huge returns. Because as an emerging company, capital and cash is your most precious resource. And the #1 reason most startups fail is because they run out of cash before they get to the finish line. It's not so much that the product fails, it's that, well, they expanded too fast, or they spent marketing the wrong way, they just run out of cash, and you get to a point where you can't keep raising, or you miss a huge opportunity because of X, Y, and Z. But I can't stress enough that don't underestimate, as a emerging brand, how much awareness you actually have to generate and how fast you have to do it, and how expensive it will be if you try to be safe about it. Because safe works when you have an unlimited amount of marketing budget and capital. It doesn't work when you have a really tiny amount and a short period of time to kind of get to where you're trying to get to. Oh, another example before we get off this. Celebrities. Everyone thinks, if I just pay a bunch of money to a celebrity, we're going to get there. It doesn't work that way anymore. It used to be, yes, you could hire one celebrity. Like, they think, oh, when Michael Jordan became the face of Nike, it changed the company. And yes, in 1985, when there was 10 television channels, you can own attention very easily. Now you can't. And there's been so many celebrity things that consumers are just trained to not believe celebrities anymore. There's so many of them. So it's not about, oh, I have a celebrity, and as long as I have them, I'm going to get this big return. It's, how are you using them? Tony Hawk was an early investor and ambassador for Liquid Death. he gets millions of dollars to do endorsements. We didn't pay anywhere near that because he was an investor. But if we just would have posted a photo or a video of Tony Hawk doing a cool trick on social media, it would have a couple hundred views maybe. So we had to figure out, okay, if we're still making, for us at that time, a big investment in Tony, what is a way to show Tony in a way that nobody's ever seen him before, that this gets millions of shares and millions of eyeballs? And what we did was, there was a thing, if you guys know the band Kiss, in the 70s, they did this really shocking stunt where they made a Kiss comic book, and they, in theory, put some of their blood in the ink that they used to print the comic books. And it was this whole outrage. So we said, let's do that with a skateboard and Tony, because he was a big fan of Kiss. So we just filmed a video, cost us $10,000 to shoot this video. We had Tony sitting on a chair in on his skate ramp. We got a phlebotomist, which I didn't know what that was until we needed one, to come take blood from Tony. We filmed it with just a normal camera, and he just delivered a couple funny lines about being an ambassador for Liquid Death. And then we actually put a few drops of that in this vat of red ink that we used to silkscreen a limited run of like 100 skateboards. And we sold them for $500 a piece, and they sold out in like 7 minutes. And just that video was picked up by every major media source around the country. I think we estimated by the time it was done, the earned media value of this was over like $20 million from a $10,000 video. And then yes, we gave Tony a little bit on top of that. But that's what I mean by a small brand using a celebrity. I've seen so many, you spend that big money, or like J-Lo for this alcohol brand, from what I understand, she doesn't even drink alcohol anymore. And that brand is not working even with J-Lo as the face of it, because again, people are seeing through the celebrity thing. So you have to be really smart about how you use them if you're gonna spend that much money, whether it's cash or you're giving them half of the company and then you do this one thing. We talked to somebody who did a thing with, I forget what they paid. I think they paid $250,000 or something like that for Kim Kardashian to do a social post as a small brand, thinking it was gonna take it off. Their follower count increased by 1,000 followers. That's a pretty expensive per follower when you're looking at that. So again, be very careful with celebrities unless you just have bottomless marketing dollars. And then really at the end of the day, our approach to marketing is treat marketing just like it's its own product. As much sensitivity and care and detail as you put into your actual product, put a similar amount of care into what you do to market it or create the awareness. Because as great as your product might be, if not enough people know about it quick enough in a lot of businesses and industries, you'll fail. Like how many great products are out there that just failed because they weren't able to get it into the right hands or the right stores, or there wasn't enough brand awareness, and they could never get beyond that small group of 10 loyalists who love it. Entertaining people does work if you're able to do it in the right way for your brand. It doesn't have to be funny. It doesn't have to be extreme like Red Bull. It could be informative. There's some of the best performing videos on social are these like social cooking videos. There's a spice brand that they got millions of followers just because they had kind of a cool, charismatic chef guy that did these cool Southern recipe videos, and his videos have like millions of views. So it doesn't have to be a big production. It just has to be legitimately entertaining. And you can look at things that people are entertained by. Like, yes, people love watching cooking shows. There's a cooking channel. There's celebrity chefs. That's a genre that's viable. And if your brand can find a way to do something interesting within that genre, you probably have a chance. And there's comedy, there's drama, there's educational. Can you be teaching people how to do something for free and put that content out there? And they're like, wow, I follow this brand because they do the best X, Y, and Z videos to show me how to do this. Like that is still entertainment and value, but it takes time. You can't, you have to actually think about those things. Like, step away from your product for a section and imagine, okay, I need to create a legitimate television show. Like think about it that way. how would you approach it if that was the thing? I'm trying to create a hit TV show, whether that's an educational show or a comedy show or an action show, whatever it is, think of it like you're trying to create a TV show, and it'll make you realize the bar is higher for certain things when you have to get into that decision-making process of what it is. That's it. Happy to take some questions or if anybody has any.
Thank you for that, Mike. So as you know, we have a lot of people here that are in charge of store designs for a lot of brands. So if you were to start a liquid death store, how would you go about doing it, applying some of the things that you talked about today?
No, I love that. And we've actually talked about that. We had this idea of trying to create like a liquid death, like flagship store in Vegas, like some weird destination kind of thing, because we were kind of plugged in with the Meow Wolf guys. But yeah, like that's the thing about liquid death is we find a way, it's not, yes, it's a beverage, but it is truly this brand that's about being funny in this level of irreverence and kind of taking the mundane and kind of making it funny or making it interesting. So yeah, on our radar is at some point, does it make sense to do a liquid death store somewhere that's, again, for us, it would be about, okay, the money we spend on that, how do we get 20x the eyeball return? So it probably can't be a normal store, right? Because if it's just about, oh, you sell a couple beverages and you sell maybe some merch in there, then you're worrying about managing that whole thing. Is it really worth the time and energy? Or if it's something where it's this ridiculous thing that anybody who hears about it is like, oh my God, have you heard what Liquid Death did? They made a store where you can do X, Y, and Z. You have to go check it out. That's more how we would approach it.
Great. I have more questions, but I kind of want to, if anybody else does too, you can feel free to raise your hand. There we go. So we'll go one and one. Right here.
So, question in regards to the marketing and the return on investment. So, I'm a runner. I'm in Colorado. And every single race, from the local Turkey Trot 5K up to the big Boulder with 40,000 people, Liquid Death is there. And you are giving away cans and cans of the beverage. How does that make sense? I guess I'm just trying to figure that out. It's like, I appreciate it, and that's how I learned of the brand. And now when I go into Sprouts, I pick up my Liquid Death right there on the impulse counter and go. But that's just like a can every once in a while. And you're giving away hundreds, if not thousands, and I'm just talking for Colorado. So in your marketing and getting that return on investment, I'm just curious, how does that work for you? How does that speak to you as that was a sound marketing business?
Because, well, one, it depends on what the event is. Because you have to think in the grand scheme of volume, right? Liquid Death last year, scan sales through retail registers, we did 331 million. So we've got quite a bit of scale where giving away a pallet here and there to some runners and races isn't going to move the needle for us in a huge way, but in a particular, what we found is like when you can support interesting communities in the right way and in the right places, those communities start to embrace you. And to your point, it's like, hey, if it costs us, I don't know, 70 cents to give away a can, but then over the course of the next 2 years, you spend $20 on Liquid Death, that's a pretty good return on marketing investment. And what we found, because our brand looks like a beer and it creates conversation, we benefit more than most brands from that like event marketing. Because people, they get the can for the first time, they're like, whoa, what's this? They walk around, 2 people talk to them. What is that? Are you drinking beer after a marathon? No, it's water. No way, what, really? Like that's really powerful marketing that, you know, a lot of other brands don't get. There's not so many brands where if they were walking around with it, 2 people are like, what is that? What is that? So we do